So Lynn, minimum effective dose. 30 seconds, what is it?
Well, I'm not going to tell you, otherwise you won't listen to the whole episode. But we are talking today about the minimum effective dose for anything in the peak's life. Anything to do with wellness. How do you find the level where you're going to get the ideal result without doing too much or too little?
Great secret. Stay tuned and we'll talk to you very soon. So hi and welcome to The Peak's Life. I'm Mike Warren and this is Lynn Fernie. Welcome and thank you for joining us. Now, I have a confession. One of those days. I have a confession to make.
You should be making many confessions, Mike.
And the reason why is I go through your daily planner and I was looking at what we've got on today and I looked at the subject of today's chat and it confused the heck out of me. So,
it's not hard.
So when I looked at it, I thought, I know what it is, but I know a lot of people probably don't understand the concept. And I think more importantly, understand the concept in their wellness journey and making sure they understand how impactful understanding today's chat is all about. So I'm not going to allude to too much more. Just a byproduct. What we never mention to those people listening is if they so desire to see our smiling faces. Beautiful. If you're listening on podcast now, you don't have to listen on podcast. You can jump onto our YouTube channel and you can see our smiling faces. Now, I've got a beautiful face for podcasts, but if you want to actually see us in real life, jump onto our YouTube channel and you can follow along there or just keep listening here.
So guys, find us at The Peak's Life on YouTube.
Beautiful. All right. Minimum effective dose, MED.
MED.
MED. Now, when I think of it, I think it's a medical. It's a more of a medical term. It's something that probably someone with a prescription or medicines needs to consider. But it's actually a really important part of wellness and the keto lifestyle, isn't it?
It is, and it's got nothing to do with medical things.
So its background doesn't come from the doctors?
Doesn't come from the doctors.
All right, give us the history lesson.
Doesn't come from supplementation. It doesn't come from anything like that, actually. And the reason people jump to that conclusion is because of that word dose.
Yes.
And the place that we get that word dose coming up is when we go to the doctor and he gives us a script and we go and get that script filled at the pharmacist or the chemist, and the label will say dose is 2 tablets 3 times a day.
Yep, absolutely.
So we know that the dose we're getting is 6 tablets a day, for example. So it's commonly used in that sort of, the medicines sphere. But if we think about where it came from, this minimum effective dose, it was originally a concept that was used in bodybuilding.
Oh, wow, okay.
And the way they were using it is the bodybuilders were looking at what was the amount of load that they had to use in order to build a certain amount of muscle. And if you think about bodybuilding, you're looking for a very precise body shape, you're in a certain category.
Yes.
So it's not just about looking beautiful, it really is about getting all those muscles really popping. And so they would actually work out to get certain amounts of muscle growth, there would be a certain amount of training that they would need to do.
Right.
And what they knew is that to go beyond that would, affect the muscles and the way that they looked. They wouldn't get that perfect muscle.
Right.
So if they were looking at the bicep, they'd be looking at what work they had to do on the bicep in order to get that bicep in absolute perfect condition for the body comp.
Right.
You do too much and you end up with a bicep that's too big, or perhaps it's too vascular, or it just doesn't look right.
Right.
You do too little and you won't get the bicep that you want and you need.
Excellent. Okay.
So that's exactly where it came from, is that these bodybuilders were looking for this perfect body image.
Right.
And so they worked out how much work they had to do in the gym in order to get that perfect body.
Right. So then it was made more popular and now we use it outside of bodybuilding?
It was. And so people like Tim Ferriss,
Yes.
who's a pretty respected author, has popularised the concept. And now it's being used essentially everywhere. So it doesn't matter whether it's your daily life, whether it's your exercise, whether it's your food, it basically gets used anywhere. And, in its simplest form, all we're talking about is whatever it is, what's the minimum that you need to do, to eat, to take in order to get the ideal outcome. So think about what the outcome you want is.
Yes.
Then work out what is the minimum to achieve it. And the reason we're looking for the minimum is if the minimum achieves the outcome, more probably won't do any more than that, and it'll just waste time, it'll waste resources, and it'll waste money.
And that's unfortunately a lot of people do have that mentality. If this dose achieves this outcome, double the dose, double the outcome. And there's a mentality piece there. More is better.
So this is you, Mike.
It could
this
be
is
me.
you. This could be you.
I'm looking at a fictitious person, but pretend that person's name is Mike. And if I have a certain dose of something that gives me a certain result, I like to double it or triple it,
because
expecting double or triple results.
Bound to be more. So classic case, if an hour in the gym is good,
Yes.
2 hours in the gym must be better. And so there are a lot of people out there like us who say, well, that coffee was awesome. Love that coffee. I love the buzz that I got off the coffee. So 2 coffees will be better, or 3 coffees will be better.
Understand.
And, 1 butter coffee is amazing, or 1 bulletproof coffee is amazing. So I'll have 2 or 3 or 4.
Cool.
And before they know it, they're actually affecting the diet significantly, and they're not actually getting the outcome that they wanted to achieve.
All right, let's do this then. Let's add some value for the guys tuning in. What if we walk through some examples from each of the pillars of wellness as to how you'd apply the minimum effective dose and why it's important, and where the right amount is correct. Too much is going to cause an effect, and too little will cause a different effect.
Yeah, great.
All right.
So you must have had some questions off our listeners as well on this one. So you're going to pick a few out?
Yeah, the first one was actually around, just segue off the back of your exercise one. It was around the amount of exercise, and I guess it's probably a good place to start, which is one of the pillars of the peaks movement, which is exercise. Sure. So if we're talking about exercise, in a lot of space, and certainly in the weights in the gym area, there is this philosophy that if I lift a heavier weight, if I train for longer, if I increase my endurance, if I increase my intensity, that is better. So give us the analogy where the minimum effective dose fits into the movement or the exercise sphere.
Yeah, sure. So the first thing is to think about where you're at and what your goals are.
Yep.
And then define, to achieve the goals, what do I need to do? So let's take a few examples. If you're pretty much sedentary right now, and your goal is to get a bit fitter, to build up a bit of cardiovascular, endurance, and perhaps to do a little bit of toning, then, let's say you've decided to go to the gym.
Yep.
And you've gone along to the gym and you found that 3 days a week and 30 minutes on each of those days, where you're doing perhaps 10 minutes of cardio and 20 minutes with a little bit of, light dumbbells.
Yes.
So you've really gone from nothing to 30 minutes of exercise 3 times a week.
Which is a big uplift. So let's say you start doing that, and what you find is your body feels really good. Yes.
You're actually walking away from the gym, you're feeling that real buzz that you get from the gym, you're feeling proud of yourself, you're feeling really good because you've exercised, you've been a bit out of breath, so you've worked, and you're seeing your weight loss start to increase, and you're seeing your cardiovascular system improve, so you find you can walk upstairs now without any problems, you can run to the bus stop without any problems. So you're actually seeing the benefits in your daily life.
So you found the ideal or the minimum effective dose to get that result.
Slow down, because we don't know yet if that's the minimum effective dose.
Right.
So there's that person who's gone from being sedentary and they found that 3 days a week at 30 minutes a day is really good for them.
Okay.
So then they decide, let's take it up a level. So they say, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to 5 days a week. They go to 5 days, and because they've been enjoying the training so much, they also increase the amount of time in the gym, and they go up to 45 minutes a session. So they're now doing 5 days a week at 45 minutes. And what starts to happen is they start to get a bit tired. They're not recovering every day, so they're going into the gym tired. And they're coming home, they've got a few aches and pains. Their shoulders are starting to hurt a bit.
Yes.
Maybe the hips are sore. And especially anybody who's wanting to lose quite a lot of weight, the load-bearing exercises can be hard at first. So now they've found it's actually not really working for them. There we've gone beyond that minimum effective dose because we're starting to get problems, we're starting to get issues with the joints, and we're feeling tired. So there we need to back off. So that person maybe backs off. They might come back down to, say, 45 minutes 3 times a day and find that's perfect.
3 times a week.
Sorry, 3 times a week.
That's a little bit too much.
3 times a week. And they find that, that's perfect for them.
Yes.
And they're getting all the benefits. Their weight loss has accelerated. Their fitness has improved. and they can really cut. They're recovering, and that extra day's rest in between the workout days, that recovery is helping them get fitter.
So now they've found their ideal.
So now they've found their ideal, because what they've found is that the minimum effective dose for them is 45 minutes, 3 times a week. If they do less than that, yes, they get some results, but not as much.
Yes.
And if they do more than that,
yes,
then they're actually starting to lose the performance because they're getting sore and they're not recovering.
And obviously the minimum effective dose for me might be very different for my friends or someone else. So we can't take someone else's minimum effective dose and think it's ideal, because it's quite a personal thing, especially when it comes to things like exercise. 3 times a week with a break in between may be ideal for me to get the results, but you might need 5 days a week.
Exactly.
Because each person responds differently.
And I've given this analogy before, but my analogy is always put 10 people on the starting line of a 100-metre race.
Yes.
Everybody's different age, different sex, different ethnicity, different build, some big, some small, some overweight, some skinny, and set them off and see if they all finish at the same time. They won't.
Of course.
So therefore, because everybody's different, everybody's got a different fitness level, everybody will need that unique individual program and unique individual dose. So if you look at you and I, we're not going to be exactly the same.
True.
Yeah, we're not exactly the same age, we're not the same build.
I'm slightly older.
You are slightly older, just a touch.
Just a touch.
So, another example would be CrossFit.
Okay.
So let's go to the other end of the spectrum. You've got a CrossFitter. Now, CrossFit is a functional movement pattern, but it's very intense. It combines cardiovascular exercises, it combines strength, it combines gymnastic movements. So you've got all of these different exercises working a lot of the body parts, in the same session. Quite a lot of people start CrossFit, they're a bit fearful, but they get into it and they're doing perhaps, again, 3 days a week, and they're loving it and they get hooked. And a lot of people jump in and decide, right, well, okay, I'll do 5 days a week.
Yes.
Or I'll do a CrossFit session and I'll do some extra work on my own.
No.
And 1 hour a day becomes 2 hours a day. And they practice a skill because I want to get my skipping, or I want to get my first handstand. And before you know it, they've put an enormous load on their body and they start to get injured. That tells them, again, they've gone beyond their minimum effective dose. If they're getting injured, definitely that's an issue. And a lot of CrossFitters find that they get overtrained and burnt out.
Just have the energy to actually do what they need to do.
That's it. So avoid burnout. Don't do that. Do the level that gives you the results, and it doesn't have to be every single session.
Good. So that makes sense in exercise. Come across to fat loss, and in the ketogenic lifestyle, we've got the keto diet and we've got intermittent fasting as probably the two primary drivers behind fat loss. How do you find the minimum effective dose when it comes to intermittent fasting and keto diet? How does that look?
So if you think about our goal in the keto lifestyle, forget the fat loss for a second. Let me come back to it. But the aim in our keto lifestyle is to be in ketosis.
Yes.
And when we're in ketosis, it means that our body is generating ketones, and those ketones are being used for fuel in the body and in the brain. Now, what we need to do is to look at our composition of our diet, so look at our macros, look at the foods that we're eating, how much fat are we having, how much protein are we having, and how much carbohydrate. And we want to have the minimum in those categories in order to give us the optimal results.
Makes sense.
So if we're looking at getting into ketosis and we're looking for ketone levels in the blood of around 0.7 millimole per litre up to perhaps 3, then what we want to do is basically eat to support that.
Yes.
So if I find my ketone levels every day are below 0.7, then I'm not in ketosis. So I need to do something about it. So then I need to perhaps increase my fats.
Yes.
Or maybe I need to do a bit more intermittent fasting so my body starts to use its own fat stores. If my ketone levels are up at 4, 5, 6 consistently every day, I'm generating more than I need. I'm probably at a level where either I've got a disease and I need therapeutic levels of ketosis, and that's fine. But if I'm a regular person with no special, dietary needs, with no particular illnesses, then I probably don't need to be quite so high.
Yes.
And in that case, maybe I'm having a bit too much fat, or maybe I'm having, maybe I'm fasting for too long. And fasting is stressful on the body.
Absolutely.
So looking at that, so when we're in the keto lifestyle, when we're looking at how do we eat and how do we fast, we just look into that optimal range of, like I said, around 0.7 up to 3. Now, if we're looking to lose weight, again, that level should be giving us a nice steady fat loss. If we find our fat loss has stalled, it could be that we've not got the quantity of fat right. Maybe we're actually having too much fat and too many calories.
Yes.
So we're doing the right things. We're loading our plates up with beautiful fats. We're having a moderate amount of protein, but maybe we've gone too far on the fats.
Yeah, and we do have a lot of people who are trying to get their highest ketone levels possible. And they get to a certain level. It's almost like every week they want to increase their ketone levels and strive for this highest number, whereas we know that there is a range that they're in effective ketosis. The higher the levels don't necessarily mean they're going to improve their results. So it is about getting that minimum effective dose of ketones and juggling your keto lifestyle and your intermittent fasting to manage that.
It is. So, just coming back to that example, thinking about how much fats you're having, if your weight loss has stalled, perhaps you've gone too high on the protein. So you've gone over your minimum effective dose of protein. And if you think about it, all you're doing is you've stalled your weight loss. And if you're eating more fats and or more protein than you need, it's costing you money.
Absolutely.
You don't, people say keto is expensive. It's only expensive if you're eating too much. If you've got your macros right, you've got good quality foods, you're getting your nutrition in, your portion shouldn't be that big. So actually you should find ketos not that expensive.
If you get it right.
If you get it right. If you go beyond your minimum effective dose, then it might be costing you an awful lot of money.
All right, let's get a little bit left of base, because this is one that's pretty close to our hearts, is daily dose of sun. Because it's one of those wellness pillars, and we know the importance of sun. But obviously finding the minimum effective dose of the gorgeous sunlight is getting the good stuff from the sun, but obviously go too far and we can get some significant problems.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
You're right. I think it's really important that everybody gets sun exposure, and it's a hugely controversial subject. Long time since we've talked about sun here on the podcast.
We sometimes get in trouble because we like our sun.
We do like our sun.
There's a good reason.
We do like our sun, and most people will comment that we're fairly tanned because we spend time outside.
Structured amount of timed time.
What we know for humans that we get vitamin D through our exposure to sunlight.
Yes.
So the sunlight hits the skin, it reacts with the melanin in the skin, and that produces vitamin D. All sorts of different vitamins. I was gonna give an example on vitamins, so we'll go to that one later. So we think about we're generating vitamin D from our sunlight exposure.
Yes.
So everybody needs vitamin D. There's a lot of studies now that are saying we're very deficient in vitamin D. Vitamin D deficiency causes diseases like cancer and things like that. So because it's important, we recommend people get that sun exposure. But then the question comes, well, how much do I need? And there are so many variants here again. It is individual, whether you're light-skinned or dark-skinned. Do you tan? Do you burn? So you've got to take that into account. But essentially, we need that sun exposure to get the vitamin D. We also need sun exposure first thing in the morning, or at least blue light exposure, not necessarily the sun. We need the blue light exposure to reset our circadian rhythm. So there are reasons to be outdoors. There are reasons to be in the sunlight. But we've got to find the point at which we get the benefit. So we're getting the feel-good factor, we're getting the vitamin D, maybe a nice golden colour, but we haven't gone so far that we're burning our skin. We're exposed to that strong sunlight for many hours during the day and at risk then of, various skin cancers.
Yep.
So, most people are probably going to find somewhere between 50 and 30 minutes is a comfortable amount, and that's more than enough to generate the allowance of vitamin D.
Yes.
So find your level and then stick with it. Don't be tempted to go longer. If you're outside longer, get in the shade, do all the things that are recommended.
Yep.
But there's a really good example of where too little, you're not going to generate your vitamin D. Too much, you're going to burn badly.
Meditation. Meditation is one of those things where we do have people who meditate for 20, 30 minutes and they get these fantastic benefits and they feel really good and their mind is focused and their body's relaxed and they've de-stressed. But then there's this, I want to do it for longer because it's going to be better. So that's another, probably quite a simple example of where the minimum effective dose gives you the results, but a little bit extra, it probably doesn't give you the extra results you're looking for.
And again, it's exactly the same principle. So if you do some meditation, and we had an episode a couple of weeks ago there talking about meditation and how to simply do meditation without all the woo woo and the crossing legs and that stuff. But if you do some very simple meditation, perhaps you're going to de-stress.
Yes.
So you've had a really busy day at work, super stressed, and you just need that little bit of calm in between your work day and dealing with the kids, for example.
Stressful.
And so you're going to have a seat and maybe you're going to meditate for 10 minutes. And in that 10 minutes, you can already feel your mind clearing, you can feel your breathing slowing down, your pulse has stopped racing, and you just generally feel a lot calmer and a lot better. Now, you might know that 10 minutes is perfect. It's all you need. And it just gives you that sense of calm and that space in your day. You go back, deal with the kids, and you're a much nicer person, you're more tolerant.
It's interesting because that's exactly what I do. When I do meditate or when I do centre myself for 10 minutes, whatever activity I'm doing, I know after about 10 minutes I'm feeling the benefits. But it's interesting how when you stay there longer, you actually get slightly agitated and it's like there's other things to do and I'm falling behind in my schedule. And you almost get the reverse effects because you're trying to elongate the benefits. But you're getting out of meditation, you're getting out of the effects because you're taking too much time. So if you get the ideal time and you get into that space, you can really reap the benefits with the minimum amount. You don't need the extra time. It's just finding that right balance.
I think, for most people, it's it may be for many people that stress of having all the things going on is why they need to meditate
Absolutely.
for longer. So they actually may need to be doing 20 minutes or 30 minutes.
Yes.
But the reality is that once you've found the amount that works for you.
Yes.
If you've got 10 minutes and 10 minutes is working, 20 minutes might feel just as good, but it may feel no better.
Yes.
So then just do the 10 minutes.
Yep.
So I think, again, it's that view. People have that FOMO. They look, the fear of missing out. Well, I can see all of these YouTube meditations
2 hours.
An hour, 2 hours, 3 hours.
Yeah.
There's one came up on my feed yesterday. It was an 8-hour meditation.
Oh, gosh.
And I'm sure it's awesome, and I'm definitely not putting that down.
It's a fast as well.
But people feel they've got to do it when that information is out there because somebody else is doing it. They feel, I'm obviously not doing enough, therefore I've got to go and do some more meditation.
Yes.
No, if 10 minutes is enough for you, stick with it and get the benefit. So minimum effective dose. Stick to it.
And off the back of that, one is line to meditation is breathing and cold exposure. There are probably a couple of other areas that are certainly part of our wellness pillar. So breathing's a really good one because we have a lot of people who, we have a recommended amount of breathing and we recommend 3 rounds of 30 breaths with a breath hold in between. So talk through the minimum requirements and why more is not better in that space.
So again, the breathing one's a really interesting one because our recommendation is 3 rounds of structured breathing, 30 breaths per round and a 2-minute retention in between each round.
Yes.
Now, everybody is very different when it comes to breathing. We've all got a different lung capacity, we've all got a different fitness level, we're different ages, our bodies are more or less used to doing this breathing. So some people can go for a minute when they do their retention breath, and some people can go for 6 minutes.
It's amazing.
So again, you've got this people have a fear that they're not doing it right, and so they don't listen to their body. And there isn't a really easy way to measure your breathing effectiveness. All you can really do is see, how do I feel? How easy is my retention breath? Am I forcing it for too long? Am I virtually blacking out? Or, or do I get up from my breathing and feel really energized?
Yes.
Because what we're trying to do is alkalize the body, which I can't measure very effectively or easily at home. And I'm trying to get energy. So at the end of the day, if I do 3 rounds of 30 breaths with a 2-minute retention and I feel amazing, again, I may be able to do 6 rounds of 30 with a 2-minute retention and feel no better.
Yes.
So why would I do more when that 3 rounds is enough? Now, if I've got lots of time and I want to do more, sure, no problem. As long as I'm not seeing a drop off in performance. So as long as whatever I do, I'm getting up, feeling good, feeling the clarity of mind, getting the energy
those
burst,
benefits.
then it's great. Do what you want.
Yep.
So in any case, always do what you feel is good for you.
Yep.
Tap in, listen to your body. But again, especially if you're time poor,
Yes.
then bring it down to an amount that's manageable and fits into your schedule, but still gives you those amazing benefits.
All right, one more example, and then I think we've covered all the pillars of wellness.
I've got 2 actually, because I want to talk about supplements before you do the last one.
Okay, a couple of supplements first.
Yeah, absolutely.
You love your supplements.
I don't love my supplements, but I think it's really important to mention supplements because people take a lot of supplements.
And they double the dose because more is better.
And it's typical, you see on the container, and this is a really good example, it is one that's more medical in a sense. People look at the container and it says, 1 tablet a day gives you whatever benefit it's meant to give you. Boosts your energy, gets your brain clear, helps you sleep. So people fall into the trap of, well, if 1 is good, then I'll perhaps take 2 because that's, maybe 1 won't work that well, 2 will definitely work. 1 was good, 2 will give me double the benefit. And there are many cases where you can take a supplement and you'll get some benefit and doubling it will give you more benefit. It does happen. But there are other supplements that are quite dangerous. So a good example is vitamin A.
Right.
Vitamin A, really important supplement. You can get it from food. So one of the best sources is liver. Another good source, cod liver oil. So I would always recommend getting your vitamin A through natural sources in a form that the body can absorb. And that's my general philosophy with supplementation, is it's generally not needed if you're eating well.
Yes.
But for those people who aren't eating well or have got deficient in vitamin A, then they may need to take a supplement and they may take a cod liver oil, for example. The problem is vitamin A at high doses becomes toxic.
Okay.
So it's not just that it's not better, it's
worse.
actually very, very damaging.
Yep.
So that's a really good example of where, people might look at the bottle of cod liver oil and it says half a teaspoon. And they measure it out, and it's a very difficult amount to measure out because it's a tiny quantity. So it doesn't matter. I'll just have a dessert spoon.
Yep.
And they have a dessert spoon a day, and it goes down easily. They don't notice any effect. But then at a certain point in time, they may eventually start to get reactions. They don't know where those reactions are coming from, but it could be the toxicity of the vitamin A.
Interesting.
So more is not better. Minimum effective dose is all you need.
MED. Cold exposure was the last one.
Cold exposure. So we recommend cold exposure because it really does boost the immune function. And it's amazing for the body. It gives you clarity of mind, gives you energy. But cold exposure is also quite a shock to the system. And what we're doing is we're putting stress on the body. So we're deliberately putting the body under stress so that over time we can build up our tolerance to cold and we can increase our resilience to the stress. And that will then translate into our everyday life. And it will also boost that immune function. So people who go into cold water or ice every day report that they get a lot less colds and flus and bugs than people who don't get any cold exposure because we've got this very comfortable environment. But if I go straight into the water, let's say I'm going to take a cold shower and I go straight in for a 5-minute cold shower at 5 degrees, and I've never done this before, that will be extremely stressful for my body.
Yes.
At a stress level that my body may not be able to handle, that on top of my daily life, my exercise stress and all the other stressors might just be the straw that breaks the camel's back, and it may actually cause more disease, more ill health, more issues in the body than it does benefit. So with the cold exposure, this is a really interesting one because again it can be quite dangerous.
Yes.
But it's one that you get to a point where you've got the benefit and more is definitely not better. So a really good example would be an ice bath.
Yep.
So let's say we've prepared our ice bath and the water is sitting at perhaps 4 degrees C, and we get into the ice bath, and at that temperature we probably want to do about 4 minutes. So we've done our 4 minutes, but we're enjoying ourselves.
As you do.
Even though you may not think that cold for 4 minutes
When
is
you try
enjoyable.
it.
Once you've become addicted, people want to stay in the ice. And so you're using your mind, you're controlling your body's reaction to the cold, you're getting all the benefits, you've got that laser-like focus, and you decide to stay in. Before you know it, you've been in the ice bath for 15 minutes. Now at 15 minutes is the point at which you can start to get frostbite. So there's probably ice floating around in the ice bath, you get out, you're actually so stiff because you're in ice, icy water, you can't even get out. So you're struggling to get out of the ice bath. It's causing you problems. You might trip, you might fall, but you may have frostbite. So you may find fingers and toes have suffered frostbite. You get out because you've been in there far longer than you anticipated. Your body goes into what we call after drop, where the body cools even more when you come out of the ice. So the body starts to cool, you start to shake, and you get to that point where you get hypothermia. So it's a very extreme example, but the minimum effective dose at 4 degrees would have been about 4 minutes. 15 minutes can cause pretty much life-threatening type of effects. So we've got the benefits at 4 minutes, stop there, it's the safe level, get out, you've done enough. And in general, so just as a quick aside, in general, when we're talking about cold showers, ice baths, the lower the temperature, the less time you want to be spending in the water.
Yes.
So just in terms of numbers, because I know everybody's always very interested in this, and we should do a whole episode on it.
We will.
In general, the temperature of the water in degrees Celsius will give you a guideline for how many minutes you should stay in. Exposure person or ice bather, then make sure you don't stay in for longer than your water temperature. So if your water's at 10 degrees, you should be able to safely do 10 minutes. If your water's at 8 degrees Celsius, 8 minutes should be enough. If it's at 4 degrees, then 4 minutes is enough. And if you're at 2 degrees, if you've really chilled your ice, you've got really good ice and not a lot of water, then 2 minutes is more than enough at that temperature.
And if you get it down to 0, don't get in.
That's it. You probably don't want to get in.
So some great information there. So what's the takeaway? Because we've been through a lot of different examples.
We have.
So minimum effective dose is the application of applying that theory to all aspects of wellness. And I guess each individual and the guys tuning in at the moment, if you think about all the activity, the wellness activities you undertake, it's about testing each of those activities to find your minimum effective dose and not being tricked into or encouraged to do more or less, thinking you're going to get a different result, but finding that sweet spot, which is your minimum effective dose.
So that's right, Mike. And I think a lot of people, what they're looking for is a guideline or a rule. So tell me, how much fat should I eat? Tell me how much exercise I need to do.
Absolutely.
Tell me how long to stay in the water. Oh my goodness, what temperature should my water be?
Yeah.
How long can I safely stay in the sun? People want a number.
Yes.
They want a magic number. They want a magic fix.
There is no magic numbers.
As we know from what we talk about here in Peaks Life, there are no magic numbers. There are no written, there are no strict guidelines because everybody's unique and different. So take my 100-meter example, everybody's going to run it at a different pace. It's the same with everything we do here at the Peaks Life. We are looking at finding what your individual perfect level is and then stick to it. So find the perfect way of eating. It might change over time, but find what works for you. Find the amount of fats and proteins that give you weight loss. If you need supplements, find the minimum that you need to take. If we're talking about exercise, find the minimum that works for you, that gives you the benefits and has you walking away from your exercise and movement feeling really happy and healthy and in great shape. If you're going out and doing, getting sun exposure, make sure you don't burn. So everything we do, whether it's breathing, meditation, food, anything that we do, find the level that works for you and stick with it. Ignore what people tell you, ignore all the rules, learn to trust your body, and your body will thank you for it.
Excellent tips. Thank you for your time, and thanks for joining us on the Peaks Life. We'll see you again or talk to you again next time.